Namaste viewers, Vibhuti Jha here, and this is Jaipur Dialogue USA. Please like, subscribe, and support our channel. Give your feedback, press the bell icon, and do whatever it takes to encourage us for what we are doing. Today, I wanted to talk about the Pahalgam story. And Pahalgam is not a story, it's actually a massive tragedy, which happens from time to time. I had thought of, talking about this element. How long will we take it? That's the question. How long will we tolerate the death by thousand cuts tactical operation that Pakistan indulges in from time to time? There are innumerable incidents in the history of 1947 to 2025. When will we stop that? And it is important decision for everybody to take, every Indian, every Hindu, every Sikh, every Christian, every Muslim in India, to take. How long will we allow a country which is so inimical to us, which so much full of hate for us, that we will allow them to continue this? Some people are saying, oh, wahan ho gaya to kya hua? Hum to yahan achhi tarah se tourism kar rahe hain yahan pe. And that's a matter of shame to our mindset and our thinking. And that's not acceptable. And I'm proposing, and as the system looks like going wrong, that Pakistan will have to be taught a lesson. They have to be stopped in their pants, literally and figuratively speaking. Before we go on to one thing, I wanted to read out something to you, what Dr. Ambedkar had said about, in his book in chapter 4, and I'm reading it out to you. The invasions of India by Muslims were as much invasions of India as they were wars among the Muslims themselves. They were deadly rivals of one another, and their wars were often wars of mutual extermination. What is, however, important to bear in mind is that with all their internecine conflicts, they were all united by one common objective, and that was to destroy the Hindu faith. Everybody, no difference. They were fighting amongst themselves for whatever, but when it came to Hindus, they wanted to destroy us. This is also very important. He also says, these Muslim invasions were not undertaken merely out of lust for loot or conquest, but there is no doubt that striking a blow to the idolatry and polytheism of Hindus and establishing Islam in India was also one of the aims of their expedition. This is what is important to bear in mind. We often talk about Shatrubodh and Purvapaksh. If knowing what Dr. Ambedkar said and knowing what they have done in the past and they continue to do so, if we continue to live in an utopian world, Aman Ki Asha, then the whole concept of Atiti Devo Bhava is nonsense. Because we have to change that concept. Atithi is that person who is willing to live and accept what we offer, not dictated with the threat of death. And that's what is important to bear in mind. So in the last few days, a lot of things are happening. India, people are talking about no war. War must not happen, because if war happens, it's a global play to derail India. It's also a threat that, India is on the march to economic progress. If India gets into war, the economy will stagnate and suffer. But behind all this, there is one element. It is a cowardice. Those people who are talking about no war, they are talking about cowardice. They're talking about fear. And they're trying to dissuade everybody from taking an action. Our history, our itihas, is witness to, the nice word is sakshi, to the truth that when it came to the real battle, even Sri Ram had to do that. Arjun had to do that. Mahabharat happened. Lanka Dahan happened. And that's what is important to remember. No country in the world, in modern world, has hesitated to fight for its survival. This is the battle of survival for Bharat. This is the battle of survival of Bharat, because the country that is totally hateful of you, hateful of us, is not stopping short. Now let's talk about a couple of things which is very important. In the recent couple of days, Rahul Gandhi sent a letter to Prime Minister to hold a joint parliamentary session to discuss and show solidarity against this invasion. I asked Rahul Gandhi a couple of things in my tweet today morning, and in which, among other things, I said, you do not need a parliament session to affirm your faith to Bharat or affirm the wrongdoing of Pakistan. You have to stand in front of Parliament House and make a couple of statements. And those statements probably might refurbish your sunken evil image. And those statements are: admonish Manishankar Iyer and this guy, the other guy, Salman Khurshid, who went to Pakistan asking for help to remove Modi from power. We know that. Rahul Gandhi must apologize to people of India that in all his foreign trips, all that he does is abuse Indian parliamentary democracy, abuse the current government, and also create suspicion on the Election Commission. He must apologize for that. He must also apologize and acknowledge that this was not security lapse. If this was security lapse, what about the security lapse when Indira Gandhi was killed? What about the security lapse when Rajiv Gandhi was killed? There is no security lapse then. Did he talk about the parliamentary session, joint session, after 26/11 happened? After the 1991 bomb blast happened? 1993 bomb blast happened in Bombay? Did he also call for a parliamentary session for parliament attack? None of those. So let's tell Rahul Gandhi, stop playing your ugly, dirty game. Don't do that. Did he? I mean, this is a very important thing for people who support him and people who vote for him to ask that question. Where were you then? If you didn't have the voice then, अगर आपकी कंठ में ताला लग गया था, तो खोलिए ना उसे फिर. दूसरी बात है, Omar Abdullah made a statement recently that after this incident, I can't demand statehood for Kashmir and Jammu and Kashmir. I have only one thing to say. It is an ideological and theological query. Omar Abdullah, please stand before the press and the media and in front of your own J&K assembly to make a statement that you and your party and all Kashmiri Muslims abrogate and apologize for the threat given to Kashmiri Hindus. Leave, convert, or die, or convert, leave, or die. Will you do that? Will you apologize for that? Will you say that that is not the correct doctrine, that you condemn that? Will you condemn that the kafirs have to be killed or non-believers have to be killed? You will not do that. Therefore, these apology statements and these pacifying statements are as phony as the faith you follow. The other element is that, India must launch a calculated pincer attack on Pakistan. It means teaching them a lesson, a lifelong lesson, never again. This is very important for India to do. Remember, world respects those countries and those leaderships that prevent any destruction of their people or their country. Remember one thing, 1971 war happened, India has not suffered because of that. In 1965 happened, India did not suffer because of that. Kargil happened, nothing happened to India in economic sphere. So why would a war now trick India into suffering? Now, there is one thing to be taken into account, that the enemies of India will want to get India embroiled in a Russia-Ukraine kind of a situation for a protracted war. And Pakistan has many sympathizers. Now, I won't say Pakistan. Islam has many sympathizers in Western countries. And we do not know how they will do whatever they will do in this regard. But India has to take the course in its own hand. I'm very delighted that Prime Minister has told all Pakistanis living in India to leave. Now look what happened about that. Mufti Muhammad Said, Mehbooba Mufti said, oh, they are living here for 30 years and 20 years, they have families here, और उनको नहीं भेजना चाहिए. अरे, they came in this country, they are staying for 20, 30 years, they are marrying their people from across the border, or people who are coming from across the border, they are marrying local people and creating an army of their own believers. For what? Now you know who are the people who are blowing up the train tracks and who are trying to threaten the supply chains of the army if a war were to happen. That has to be taken care of very seriously. And Mufti and Mahbooba Mufti must first apologize, just as I asked Omar Abdullah must apologize. This is very important. It's very, very important. You know, it is important to understand the Purva Paksh and Shatru Bodh. There is my favorite quote, which I often tell you. History is littered with corpses of men and women who forget the lessons of history. भारतीयों को वो इतिहास का वो सबक सीखना पड़ेगा, सोचना पड़ेगा और उसके अनुसार ही काम करना पड़ेगा. That's very, very critical at this point in time. And then there are those who decry, those Indians who are criticizing India for what has happened from across the border. It was a terrorist attack. A Pak involvement was there. And I'm very glad that Prime Minister has taken several actions, which incidentally I had mentioned to Prime Minister. Do not end up becoming a Manmohan Singh, who did nothing other than blame Hindus for all the problems. And Prime Minister has taken excellent actions as required as of now. Suspension of Indus Water Treaty. Now people will criticize, oh, usko kya hoga, isko kya hoga. But you have to demonstrate downgrading of embassy, downgrading of consulate services. That was very important to do. Now, one thing which I wanted to say also to you, that, you know, you have to understand the nature of the beast. There is no escaping from the understanding the nature of the beast. United States, UAE, Israel, they have all offered support. Bilawal Bhutto, look at the shameless young man. That Bilawal Bhutto talked about Indus River, wo pani hamara hai, खून की नदियां बहेंगी. अरे ओ कमबख्त, उस तुम्हारे ही देश के लोगों ने तुम्हारे माँ बाप को की निर्मम हत्या की थी. पहले उनसे खून और पानी का हिसाब मांगो, इसके पहले कि तुम भारत से ये सवाल पूछते हो. शर्म आनी चाहिए तुम्हें इस तरह की बातें करते हुए. खुद तो अपने माँ बाप को ना बचा सके तुम, और तुम्हारे ही लोगों ने तुम्हारे माँ बाप की हत्या की. तुम क्या तुम किस खेत की मूली हो? सब्र करो, तुम्हारा भी वही इंतकाल होगा शायद. I hope not. I'm not praying for that, but I hope you don't die the same death that your father and mother encountered. The other part which I wanted to say, Pakistan has admitted its complicity. The defense minister told on the TV that they are doing the Western powers bidding and America's bidding in all these stuff. All right, we will ask that question. You have already confessed that. Take them to task. Don't forget that. Don't ignore that. This is very, very important to understand for all Indians, that you have to make them accountable for what they have done in Pahalgam. And we have to make sure that country that doesn't have the strength and capability to last in a conventional war for even 3 to 5 days with India is indulging in terrorist activities, because that's all they can do. They issue nuclear threats. Let's call their bluff, because they know if they empty their nuclear arsenal on India, India will still survive. But they will, उनका नाश हो जाएगा, उनका पूरा मूल खत्म हो जाएगा. They will be vaporized. They don't realize that. When I told that to somebody, he was stunned and he didn't have any, his thinking cap went off his head. That's one other thing we have to do. And other part which I wanted to urge Indians, Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims, those who love India. And there are people emerging out of all. Make sure that the foreign media doesn't destroy the Indic narrative. It's very important for us to put our narrative out in the open. Unfortunately, India doesn't have its own BBC or its own Al Jazeera, which is listened in the world around. I think it's time for India to have its own voice around the world. Yes, there are domestic TV channels doing very well, but they are not listened to or not heard in the world around. Our voices are not heard around. And I urge the government of India to establish the Prasar Bharati has to do the proper prasar of Bharatiya Sanatan narrative and the truth telling from the Indic point of view. Ladies and gentlemen, isko bhi maan lijiyega ki those people, they are not brainwashed in doing what they do. That's exactly how their brain is wired to do. That's what is important. You know, कहते हैं ना कि individually everybody is as good or as bad a guy one can be. But it's their collective wisdom which Dr. Ambedkar referred to, that they will fight within themselves, but when it comes to India and Hindus, they get united. Don't fall for taqiya. I'm very glad that many Pakistani channels have been shut down, and they should be shut down forever. It's time for action. It's not time for Vichar, Vimarsh, Vishleshan, Vimochan, and Vikhyan alone, but it's time for action, and action that will stop these terrorist attacks, these 1,000 cuts tactic forever, whatever it takes. We must be willing to pay the price for it. Thank you very much. As Satyameva Jayate ka mera nara hai hamesha, for Satya to triumph, you and I have to fight for it. Thank you. Namaste.